Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes, and in this video I'm going to be talking about 3 aliens from Cosmic Eons that have very tiny text and a lot of it, but I think that they are worth the effort that you have to go through in order to grok what they do and enjoy their uses. So these are 3 aliens, and they not only have tiny text, but they use the extended template. So I'll give you little comparison here. So this is Filth, which is, another red alert alien, but it has the standard template there for fitting all of your text in there. So these 3 aliens that we're going to look at today, they not only have the tiny text, but they needed even more space to fit the stuff on there. But like I said, these are fun aliens to play. They're to some degree they're fun to have in the game, even if you're not playing them. At least I think so. So let's get acquainted with them, what they do. As you can see, they're all red alert aliens. So most of the ones that have the extra tiny text on them turned out to be red alert. And Cosmic Eons has a reputation, which is well deserved, for being the expansion that has a lot more complexity to it, because a lot of these aliens are out there. They're really different. This was something that the original designers of Cosmic Encounter, they worked on, and they were playing around with this concept of having aliens that were even more complex than red alert. They were playing around with the idea of ultraviolet or something like that, they were designed to break the game in new and more horrifying ways. But Fantasy Flight was just not on board with that concept. So I and Jefferson Crow and Bill Martinson eventually came in, not necessarily to the rescue, but we came in to help them to get these aliens across the finish line. And it was a lot of fun working on that expansion with Bill Eberly and Peter Alaka. And they had some really interesting and unusual ideas, and it was fun trying to find a way to get them published. So let's dive in. We're going to start with Architect, and I always like Architect. My wife is an architect, so it's fun for me to have an Architect alien in the game. We went around with a lot of different crazy ideas, but I think what we ended up with is pretty good, even if it takes a lot of text. And as a disclaimer, I think in a lot of cases, the reason that there is so much text is because as you're getting to, this was the 6th expansion for Cosmic Encounter, you're trying to account for all of the edge cases that you know are going to be coming. And, it just means you have to write more and more. If some of the base game aliens hadn't come out in the base game and were coming out later, they probably would have a lot more text on there. But in any case, there's a lot going on here, to be sure. But like I said, it's fun. So Architect has the power to build towers. And this is an alien that's going to be taking advantage of the fact that the planets in the Fantasy Flight edition of Cosmic Encounter are individual planets, their own little tokens. You can pick them up and you can do stuff with them, which is what Architect is going to do. So when you win as a main player, at the end of the encounter, use this power, it's mandatory, to create or expand a tower in your opponent's system. If you do not already have a tower in that system, choose 2 of that system's planets. And if the targeted planet is in that system, it must be one of the planets. Merge those 2 planets together. So you're going to stack them on top of each other. You're going to place all the ships from both of them on top of the 2-level tower. Now, if you already have a tower in the opponent system, then instead of selecting another planet, instead you select another planet in that system and you merge it into the existing tower as a new level, placing its ships on top. So right away, you're stacking up planets, and that means that occasionally there's going to be players who had colonies on both of those planets, and now they're all on one planet. So that's not even the main part of this alien. That's just extra. So, and again, I think it's fun to have these aliens in the game. That's going to be a little bit more true of the other 2 than this one, but it's fun, though, I think, seeing those planets. I mean, if you're not the one being merged, it's a lot of fun. You're like, yeah, go. Let's see what else you can do, because there's more. Only normal player color planets can be merged. So the Genesis planet is not going to get merged in there. And if there's new planets that come out, They'll be exempt. Do not create a merged planet using planets with an unused player color or that would exceed any limits, such as more than one entanglement token, etc., a reference to another alien in the set. So this whole paragraph in here, that's all edge case stuff. That's not really, we had to put it in there because we knew it was coming and got to help people figure stuff out. On to paragraph 3. As a main player, after encounter cards are revealed, use this power, so again, mandatory, to double your total if you have a tower of 2 or more levels in the opponent system, a tower of 3 or more levels in a system adjacent to your opponent's system, or a tower of 4 or more levels in any system. So you are, as the architect, you're frantically trying to win the encounter as a main player, even as the defense, which again is a nice thing. You're getting something for winning as the defense, which normally you don't really get anything. So here, if you're facing the same player, you're going to be making a tower that gets higher more quickly. But again, if you're building towers all over the place, you're setting yourself up for this doubling your total. That's huge. That is a big boom if you can start building a tower. And then each tower counts as a single planet. Towers are permanent, even if you lose the use of them. If any player cannot win or cannot gain enough foreign colonies to win the game due to insufficient foreign planets, you win the game. Again, that's just extra. That's just in there. I don't even know why we put that in there. Didn't need it, but we were like, all right, what happens if you get to that point? Well, it was another edge case, which we knew, like, all right, it's possible. It's probably not going to happen, but certainly at a lower player count, this is much more likely to happen. So if that does happen, then the architect wins the game. So, and what's funny is you go one line here at the bottom for the history of the alien, because that's all the room you had. Skilled builders, the architects now seek to drag the works of others into their constructions. Well, there you go. Nice and short. So yeah, architect, I think, is an amazing alien. The stakes are high right off the bat if you can win an encounter, especially if you're the defense. You are not saving those big cards for your turn necessarily, and you don't need to. You should definitely be playing your best cards to win as the defense, because what's going to happen is you're going to be laying the groundwork for being able to win much more easily with lower cards. Again, if you use up your 40 as the defense, you're building a tower. Later on, you're playing a 10. If your counter total is a 10, that actually is a 20 under the right circumstances. So you want the game to go on as the architect so that you've got the opportunity to build up those towers, and being able to look around the table and see everybody's systems shrinking down in that direction, but growing in that direction. So architect, a lot of fun. Especially to play, but we'll get into the other two. So these other two were a lot of fun because I was very much involved in the design. I was very much involved in this. My original idea was you were stacking the planets in different configurations that would do different things, but I got overruled on that, and then eventually we came up with this one. It was a little more of a group effort, but some people are like, get rid of it. Architect doesn't work. We need to move on to something else. But I was like, no, I want to make all of their aliens work in some capacity or another. So we're going to move on to Surgeon. This is one that went through some radical changes during the development. It was started off by cutting things. It was cutting things in half, and it was very strange, and it was not working at all. And then I had this idea of being able to surgically attach a flare to an alien sheet. That was the concept. And so the team, we all worked together to come up with the current readout. So this is one that has some game setup. So Surgeon is not an alien that's going to show up in the middle of a game, because game setup is usually a disqualifier. And right around the time of Cosmic Eons, Bill Martinson and I started coming up with, in fact, we started doing it during Dominion, but we started coming up with ways of getting rid of the game setup, especially if an alien had tokens, because we noticed that Grudge, I don't have it in front of me, but it was out earlier. Grudge is an alien with its own tokens, but it doesn't have game setup. It just tells you use the Grudge tokens and get them back and whatever. So we realized we could do that with other aliens. But Surgeon, I think, makes sense. to have the game set up. So what is that game setup? Just draw 3 flares from the unused flare deck, which I think they should have just called the flare deck. And later on, I tried to just say, let's just call it the flare deck. There's no, because if you're going to the unused flare deck, well, then it's being used, right? So I don't know why that was on there, but I think Bill was like, it's been called the unused flare deck. We need to keep calling it that. So he doesn't like it when it gets inconsistent, which it does all the time. That's why I'm like, it would be more consistent to be inconsistent, but that's me. So you're going to draw 3 flares from the flare deck, and you're going to place them face down on this sheet as facelifts. The facelifts are not part of your hand, but you may look at them at any time. So you're going to have these flares. They're not part of the game per se. They're unknown flares, and you know what they are. So what's going to happen is you have the power of surgery, and if you are not a main player after Destiny is drawn, you may use this power to choose any other player as your patient, and then offer that player a wild flare as a facelift. So, you're not forcing them to do anything, but you're picking somebody and say, hey, how'd you like a facelift? Which is kind of what I think plastic surgeons are like, in my mind anyway. They're not necessarily waiting for people to come in. They're looking for people to get facelifts. Show 1 flare from the sheet to the patient as a possible improvement for their alien power, and then offer it in exchange for anything that patient could give you as part of a deal. So this is a deal-making alien. It's one that's trying to get colonies when it's behind, or get some extra cards. And if you're playing with any other variants that are tradable, like, oh, hey, how about your space station for a facelift? So they might go for it. If the 2 of you agree, place the facelift face up next to the patient's alien sheet as a temporary part of that alien power, and then draw a replacement for this sheet from the unused flare deck. If you do not agree, return the facelift to this sheet. So you don't lose it if they don't want it. What's interesting about this alien is it's an alien that is basically helping others. You're not giving yourself facelifts. You're giving somebody else a flare that they're going to be able to use, and here's how they're going to use it. Not yet, though. First in paragraph 3, after setup, if you choose not to offer a facelift, instead you may use this power to discard 1 or more facelifts from the sheet and then draw replacements from the flare deck until you have 3. So if you're like, I don't know, anyone's going to want this particular flare, instead of offering it, you can shuffle it out. So a patient may use. So we've got a little may use here. It is like it's part of their alien power. They may use their improved alien power to activate 1 of their facelifts whenever appropriate. So they could have more than 1 facelift, which is kind of nice. Even if you, the surgeon, have lost this power, the facelift use does not count as playing a flare. So card zap is not going to do anything to stop it. It's an extension of that alien's power. So after a facelift is used or cosmic zapped, so it can be cosmic zapped, it is removed from the game. So the facelifts are temporary. The host rejects it, and it's making it into a one-shot sort of Mayfair-style flare. But it's not zapped by a card zap, which is nice. So it is interesting, and it's not in their hand either. And then we have another 1-line history here. Nothing beats a cosmic cut by a surgeon. Small fee required. And that may have been the history back when it was cutting things. I'm not sure. But so, yeah, I like Surgeon because, one, it's doing something that is very different from your standard alien. It's bringing in more flares into the game, which I like that as well. You've got 200 plus flares now, and you're typically only seeing 10 or 12 or so in a game. And I'm going to get a couple extra into that game, which is nice. It's a deal alien, so Surgeon can really leverage the facelifts to get stuff. And you can certainly try non-binding things. You say, hey, I'll give you a facelift. Why don't you invite me to be an ally? And they're like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And of course, they can renege on that if they want, but because it's not a binding deal. But you see, and you certainly have to make it as part of what they could give you in a deal. So yeah, give me any card from your hand and promise to invite me. That's the sort of thing that I like to leverage the Surgeon with. I'll give you a facelift if we can make a deal here in this, in this encounter. I see that Well, if you're not a main player, but yeah, the next time you attack me, that sort of thing. So there's lots of ways you can leverage giving somebody a pretty cool flair. Um, and what's great, again, is they're one shot. So it's not going to be annoying. Like I'm giving you this really powerful flare that you're going to get to use all the time. So they'll get one good use out of it. Which brings us to our last alien. And this is one of my favorites in all of Cosmic Eons. It's probably one of my top 10 aliens. I was asked at Gen Con, what's my favorite alien? I had a hard time saying one. And somebody there was like, I already know the answer. And I was like, good, tell me, because I don't know. And they're like, Skeptic. And I'm like, yeah, Skeptic. I don't know. The Skeptic's my favorite alien anymore. For a long time, it was my absolute favorite. But now there's a lot of others that are kind of jockeying for that number one position. I really do have to think about it. And I might do a video all about that. But this is up there, and it's Tortoise. I love Tortoise. And I know it's controversial. Some people who don't like Machine are not going to like Tortoise. I like Machine too, although I don't like Machine as much because I think Tortoise has got a little special extra stuff that it does. So it is, you have the power to dawdle. So what's going to happen is at the start of each of your turns, use his power to receive 4 rewards and end your turn. So that's the use. That's the one use of Tortoise that's happening, is that you don't have a turn. You just get some rewards when it's your turn. So you are going to be probably behind the other players. They can certainly still invite you as an ally, and you should definitely ally when you can. But not having your own turn as the offense to pick up 1 or 2 colonies on your turn is definitely going to be a disadvantage. But Tortoise is going to try to make up for it here as we dive into paragraph 2 here. Each time you draw a card as a reward, draw the top card from the appropriate deck or discard pile. So that's kind of an interesting thing that Tortoise is just allowed to do all the time. Any or all cards you draw as rewards may be placed face down on this sheet in your shell. So you can take those cards and you can say, yeah, this one's going into my hand. I want to use this earlier. This one I'm going to save. I'm going to save it in the shell because the shell is going to come into play later on. Your shell is not part of your hand and may not be used until the end of the game, but you may look at it at any time. All right, when the game ends, if you have not lost this power, add all cards in your shell to your hand. If you are not one of the winners, take one final turn. You cannot use this power to gain rewards, and no other players may become the offense regardless of other game effects. You may have as many encounters as you can, even if they are not successful, and even if you lose this power, until you either run out of encounter cards or become a winner, sharing the win with all other players who are now achieving a victory condition, if any. So you get the chance to catch up to everybody else using everything in your shell, whatever you've packed in there up until that point. Now, in a game with a lot of players, Tortoise might only get 1, maybe 2 turns, might not get a turn at all. So Tortoise is definitely going to be a lot more powerful in a lower player count game. I still like to play with a lot of players, so I'm allying with the defense a lot as Tortoise because I'm getting more rewards, and I'm trying to prevent anybody from getting to 4 or 5 colonies. But that's not all. There's one more paragraph here. Whenever you are part of a shared win, if you have not lost this power, you may either accept the shared win or attempt to win alone by having 1 more encounter if you still have an encounter card. Other players who were part of the shared win may not ally with you. If you gain a foreign colony, you win alone. If not, you lose the game and the other winners win. So you might be at the point where, let's say there were 2 other players that were winning up to that point, and you were behind, and you've caught up. You've used your shell. You've gone through a couple of encounters, and you finally managed to get to 5 foreign colonies with the other 2 players. And you can look at your shell and you can go, I've still got some good cards in here. So you know what? I'm going to have 1 more encounter. And those 2 players cannot ally with me as the offense. So I'm going to be definitely likely to be opposed by them and probably everyone else. So Now, while it's possible for somebody who wasn't winning to join you on your side, I have found anyway, maybe it's just me when I'm playing Tortoise, that nobody wants to help me. Um, they're punishing me for going for it despite having joined in on the joint win. And again, how can you not go for it? You have to go for it. You have to go for it. So I always go for it. So far, I've only managed it one time. The other two times I've played as Tortoise, I was thwarted at the end when I could have been satisfied with the joint win. And normally I am. I always say that a shared win is better than a shared loss. So I'm usually fine with going after the shared win. In fact, I usually seek it out. But there are times where I see what I've got in my hand and I go, all right, I definitely could win this by myself. And I think I owe it to the cosmos to go for it. And Tortoise is an alien that positions me to do just that. So that is one of the main reasons why I love Tortoise. And the other is just because it's just such a bizarre alien that doesn't get a turn and is trying to accumulate these rewards that maybe they'll get to use, and maybe they won't have to use any of them. You might end up winning the game without him. That'd be a great bucket list thing. Win as Tortoise alone without ever having used your shell. That would be fun. Very edge case on that one. But yeah, that's this. I'm going to go ahead and ask people, what do they think of these aliens? I know that a lot of you are going to say not much, but I love these guys. I think they're a lot of fun to play. And in the case of Tortoise and Surgeon, I think they raise the stakes even if you're not playing them. You know, if I'm not Surgeon, I love getting the facelifts because, you know, I can cycle through my hands a couple of times and I've still got those facelifts where I'm waiting for the right time to use that flare. Boom. That's a lot of fun. Harder to zap them as well. And of course, with Tortoise in the game, even if I'm not Tortoise, I love its chutzpah and just that, oh, can we stop? Can we stop Tortoise? We don't know what kinds of goodies that player's been stockpiling throughout the whole game. So it's a lot of fun. I like seeing it in action. I like this artwork as well. I think it's great. In fact, all of the artwork on these aliens is a lot of fun. So I enjoy those. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me, what do you think of these aliens? Let me know if you've seen them in action, how they did. If you played them, how did you like playing them? If you were against them, what was that like? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this video, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.